I'm just quickly putting together the front diff of my Talion after last night or the night before's bash. So what I found was some sand got into the diff housing. So normally what I do is service those housings before I drive them on anywhere really, and fill them with grease so that the sand and dust doesn't get in. But I decided to run that car stock, so I didn't do that. I'll post up some photos of what it looks like on the inside, but I thought I'd just share with you a real simple easy tip that I use all the time. Just the simple sewing needle. It's just sometimes the dirt gets up in these hexes and then you can't get your driver in easily, so I just use this simple needle, give it a few sort of runs around in the hex, simple blow, and then your driver will fit straight in and solid, won't slip, won't strip. Great, simple, easy, cheap. And I've lost it. Oh, that worked well, didn't it? Here it is. 2 or 3 seconds, it's done. Hey guys, just one of the quick tips that I would give you for your diffs, especially if you're running in extremely dusty or sandy environments. One thing I do is I just buy some of this kind of cheap grease. It's nothing special really. We get this Inox brand in Australia. I don't know if it's sold elsewhere, but it's just the kind of standard grease really. And yeah, it's cheap because you get in big amounts. You don't need to buy some expensive RC product that, you know, costs 20 bucks for a little tube. So all I do is every time I seat a new bearing or something like that, I just put a bit of grease around it, and what that does, it kind of seals up the hole from any sand or whatever getting in. It's messy, but I think it's worth it. The photos you've seen of the diff with the sand in it, that doesn't happen when I do this. So the other thing I do then is with this section of the diff housing, same thing, just run a small amount around it, and then the sand and dirt is much less likely to get in, and it'll save any dust and water even a bit from getting in. So that just seals the case to the chassis. And like I said before, when I do this, it's very rare I see any dust or dirt get in to the diff housing itself. Well guys, I've just pulled apart this V3 Talion front diff, and that's the oil amount that's in there. So that hasn't leaked. That is how it is. I can't see any sign of leaking. So guys, check your diffs when you get the car, and this is way under what should be in there, and yeah, it's surely going to lead to premature wear, and also you're not going to get the performance that you expect out of these either. Alright guys, so another thing I do before I put the actual diff into the housing is I get a lot of grease. You guys might not appreciate this. Some people will think this is silly, but I think it works for me. And make sure you get it on all the edges where the bearings sit and everything, so you're sealing it from any dust getting in any of the cracks or the breaks in the case. It's a bit messy, but if you want to stop dust and sand getting in, this is one way that works for me. Anyway, so yeah, that's plenty. You can see now that on this part of the housing there's nowhere that the dust and dirt can get through. And then slot your diff in. Probably should have put grease on it before I got to this point, but you can from here. Alright, so once you've got that done, grab your cover. You can do this when it's in the car. You don't have to have it out of the car like this. And do the same thing. Just make sure you get plenty of grease around all the edges that potentially would let dust or water or so on past. On a race buggy I probably wouldn't put this much, but with these cars it's not a big deal. and then line up your case, slot it in, and then tighten up your screws and clean it all up. When you're ready to put the gearbox back onto the chassis, just run a small bead of grease onto the actual chassis as well, and that way you're guaranteed that there's going to be a seal. Yes, it's going to pick up some dust around this edge, but it's going to stop it getting into your gear mesh and all that stuff. So to me, it's worth it. Guys, if you ever strip out a screw in your gearbox case, what I do is use the imperial equivalent size. So it's usually the imperial size is slightly bigger, so you get one more chance at the thread. So sometimes these gearbox screws strip really easy. So this is an imperial piece, imperial screw, and that's tightening down nicely, whereas with the Arrma one it was just stripped out and slipping. So it just gives you a second bite at the cherry. Alright guys, another tip with these knuckles, what I find is to avoid stripping them, the best way is to actually just start the thread by hand. Don't use a tool at all, and if you gently wind it back, you usually can kind of get a feel for where they start, and then it should start pretty easy. If it doesn't, it's possible it's cross-threaded, and then that way you can just wind them in, you know they're not going to strip, and then go ahead and tighten with the Allen key. Another easy thing, make sure that the plastic parts are inserted and seated. But easy way of setting these up, make sure that as you tighten them up they can still drop. If they can't, they're too tight. Well guys, I'll just show you one more trick. I've got these Arrma AR7100002, that's AR710002 E-clips, and all it is just to help hold the tie rod ends on for your steering. So you can put them on these ones here, or you don't have to, but the inner one is the main one that's the problem. So once that's clipped on, it's pretty much not going to come off unless something breaks, which is maybe a good thing or a bad thing, but it's definitely more secure. I'll show you how to fit the other one on the inner one as well in a minute. Okay, so I was just going to show you how to install the E-clip on the inner. Just going to show you how to install the E-clip on the inner side of the steering tie rod. So what you can do is just rest it on there, get your needle nose pliers in the hole, and then just gently squeeze and pop, it's on. To get them off, you can just use a flathead screwdriver, just a small terminal driver. I did have one here. Oh, there. Yeah, and then you just get it in there and pop it off, easy. So there's very little chance that that'll come off. So obviously this is only important on the V3 or earlier cars. The V4 doesn't require that. So anyway, hopefully that's helpful. I know a lot of you guys already do it, and thanks for the tips from some of you guys. I think Lazy Bushman probably told me that one, so thanks for that, mate.